Hi, welcome to the Milk Making Minutes. I'm your host, Lo. Today, I'm trying something new and I'm going to talk to you a little bit for just a few minutes about a breastfeeding issue that I'm encountering as I interview guests who share their stories on the podcast. So, this week, I want to talk about the difference between discomfort and severe pain while breastfeeding. And I think many of us, we get taught to tune out severe pain while breastfeeding because many of us learn to tune out pain in general. And so when it comes to breastfeeding, we think that we'll just grin and bear it, and with time that it will go away. And for some of us, our babies kind of figure it out and it does eventually go away and it's fine in the end. But really, severe pain is typically a sign that something is going wrong. There can be some discomfort in the beginning as you are getting accustomed to breastfeeding and what it might feel like. But there's a difference between discomfort and severe pain. And I really encourage you as you're breastfeeding or as you're preparing to breastfeed to think about, if I'm curling my toes and I'm just wishing and hoping for this breastfeeding session to end, it's a sign that something isn't right. So what could the causes of this severe pain be? It could be a variety of things. It could be anything from a shallow latch. That's the one that we most commonly hear. And shallow latch means that the baby is typically taking mostly nipple and not enough breast tissue. It might mean that the baby is coming straight onto the nipple instead of having what the lactation field refer to as an asymmetrical latch, meaning they're off center from the nipple. One way to think about how you can bring baby to the breast so that they're taking in more breast tissue is to think about bringing baby's nose to the nipple instead of bringing baby's mouth to the nipple. And that can sometimes cause the baby to open up wide enough to have to come up over the nipple and bring in more breast tissue. So that's one of the reasons that severe pain can be happening. The other reason could be poor positioning. So sometimes we see that babies are positioned in such a way that they're straining their neck while breastfeeding. So maybe the baby's side is aligned towards the person who's feeding the baby's body instead of being tummy to tummy. And that can cause a shallow latch, or baby's too high or too low, or perhaps baby's feet are dangling and that makes it more difficult for the baby to latch on and feel settled in. So that's one of the things that we look for in an evaluation. It could be the milk flow. Baby might be adjusting for either a slower milk flow than what baby likes or a faster milk flow than what baby likes. And so baby could be clamping down to adjust for that milk flow. And there's things that your lactation professional can help you work through to make it more comfortable and to have the baby not clamp down or not tug at the breast. And then finally, there could be anatomical causes within the baby's mouth, typically, that are preventing the baby from having a nice wide latch and getting the nipple back into the mouth really deeply. And this is a really common one, and it needs to be evaluated. Often what the lactation professional will do is they will look inside the baby's mouth, they will evaluate to see if they see ties, and then they will refer you to a provider, typically a pediatric dentist or a ear, nose, and throat doctor, who will give an official diagnosis and do a procedure that would make it easier for the baby to latch more deeply and to transfer milk. So those are the causes. What can you do if you're feeling toe curling pain, severe discomfort during breastfeeding? I started the Milk Making Minutes because I'm passionate about supporting breastfeeding people. But more importantly, I knew that hearing real people tell real stories would benefit both the storytellers and the listeners. I had this idea for 3 years before I launched. I asked so many people how I should begin, and Anchor came up repeatedly as the easiest way to launch a podcast. And I have not been disappointed. If you are passionate about a topic and have wanted to start a podcast, you can use Anchor to record and distribute your podcast. It's easy to use. You can use the editing tools right from the platform. You can distribute your podcast episodes seamlessly to listening platforms like Spotify and Apple Podcasts right from Anchor. And the best part is, it's free. And the tech support has been great too. Go to anchor.fm or download the app right to your phone to get started on your great podcast idea. Number one, don't just keep suffering through it. That is only going to end in more pain and discomfort. If you think it's going to work itself out, that sometimes does happen, but in the vast majority of cases, people end up, if they don't seek out help, feeding their baby in some other way in the end. And so you can give your nipples a break if you're in severe pain and remove milk in some other way, hand expression or with a breast pump, while your nipples heal up. But as you're doing that, seek the help of a lactation professional. And if your lactation professional tells you everything looks good, baby has a deep latch, everything looks fine, but you're still in severe pain, you need to seek a second opinion. We do this all the time when we get an answer that we're not satisfied with when it comes to our own health, but because we have this new baby, it might be something where we feel so unfamiliar with, then we think, okay, they must know what they're talking about. But sometimes even very well-meaning providers miss the mark sometimes. And so trust your gut. If it doesn't feel right, it probably isn't right. Look elsewhere. It might be that provider doesn't specialize in looking inside the baby's mouth to look for anatomical reasons why the baby might not be able to have a deeper latch. And you might need to seek out a provider who is able to do that for you. It might be that some hospital-based lactation professionals are not allowed to evaluate for tongue tie. It's against the hospital policy. I've heard of that happening before. It might be that they would like to, but their hands are tied because of the place that they work. Look elsewhere. Make sure that you continue to seek help if breastfeeding is really important to you and it's something that you want to continue doing, because most of the time when you get the right supports, you are able to resolve that breastfeeding. Not always. Sometimes there are mystery cases. I was actually one of those mystery cases where I sought out all sorts of professional help for years. I breastfed my oldest for years and the pain never really did resolve. But I never stopped seeking out the answers to why I was in pain. There are other professionals that you sometimes have to go to try to resolve the pain. There are chiropractors who do work to try to help relieve tension, muscular tension. There are ear, nose, and throat doctors that sometimes you have to see that can provide additional support. So there are other providers who are a part of the puzzle that your lactation professional can usually refer you to. So keep seeking out that help. There's also lots of great evidence-based peer support that you can seek out. So kellymom.com you'll hear that referred to on the podcast a lot. It's a blog style evidence-based support, so you're going to see mostly written answers to questions, lots of breastfeeding questions, but it's all cited, so you can look at what the original studies were for those answers. And then both Breastfeeding USA and La Leche League International have online groups on Facebook, and you can go to their websites and find supporters in your area. You can usually look on a map, find their phone numbers, and reach somebody over the phone to be able to talk to somebody. And they usually will know some really good professionals in your area, so they can talk you through whatever issue you're having at the time, and then also recommend somebody who you might need to see for additional support. And then finally, I really recommend that you join the Milk Making Minutes, Keep the Conversation Going group on Facebook. It's a place where you'll meet like-minded people who are really interested in solving the puzzle to reducing breastfeeding anxiety. And I'll be your #1 cheerleader there. I lead that group and I'm building that community there. And of course, you can also reach out to me at quabbinbirthservices.com if you would like additional lactation support. I can bill some insurance companies, and I can create a super bill for you if I'm not able to bill your insurance company directly, so that you can try to submit for reimbursement. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Milk Making Minutes. There will be another episode on Sunday with another amazing guest sharing their story of breastfeeding. Please rate and review on your favorite podcasting app and share with somebody who needs to reduce their breastfeeding anxiety.